David Wall-Rice. I'm professor of psychology and associate provost and curator of Crown Forum at Morehouse College. As we know, because of COVID-19, we're doing things at Morehouse College online in terms of classes. And we also wanted to make sure that there was not an absence of Crown Forum. So we have curated these Crown Forum conversations. So the conversation that we have today, I'm fortunate to be in conversation with Micah, Holmes, and Grant Bennett. And of course, I want you all to introduce yourselves, but I say that I'm fortunate and honored to be in conversation with you two because you're just really good guys. And I think you represent the best of Morehouse College, certainly, but you represent the best of our communities and all of that good stuff. And I thought that it would be good to talk to you two seniors to kind of just give us some perspective of how you're dealing, how you're doing, what your future is looking like, and what your experience at Morehouse has looked like, and how this pandemic is colored or is informing some of your social justice work and all those kinds of things. So that's kind of the tone that I wanted to make sure that I set before we begin our conversation. But everything else is just going to be kind of us talking. Okay. So whoever wants to go first, please just share with us who you are, a little bit around the detail of who you are and kind of what you're doing now, please.
Micah, you always go first, bro.
Man, all right. I'll go first. I did always go first with you. All right, just cool. All right, so hello everyone. My name is Micah Holmes. I'm a senior business administration major from Cleveland, Ohio. In my senior year at Morehouse College, and I'll say it's been one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my life. Been the best decision I personally say I've made. Throughout Morehouse, I've done numerous things. Joined numerous clubs. Got to open doors like being the first ESPN ambassador at Morehouse College. The first Atlanta Falcons ambassador at Morehouse College, do certain things like that. And I just had an overall good time with it throughout my entire 4 years.
So how are you? I mean, we're on the other side of one heck of a spring break, right?
Yeah.
You're gone for, 3.5, 4 days, and then you find out, oh, we aren't coming back. So how are you? How's your family? This is kind of a general check-in first up. How are you doing?
I mean, I would say originally when I found out the information about that, it definitely hurts. You work your whole entire 4 years matriculating through the college with that one mindset of, okay, in May, I'm going to walk across that sacred grass I can't touch any year before that and finally become the Morehouse man I'm supposed to be. And when you find out, like, you lose the rest of your spring semester, all the things you had planned go into the garbage, like events, whether that be community service, whether that be volunteering with kids at local schools. That's all out the window now. So it's like that's very hard on you at first when you first think about it. I also thought a lot about the freshmen who had a rocky start as well. A lot of people I mentor, and like just seeing them have to go back home to their families. They feel like they just got there and they haven't seen too much, and to have their freshman experience be like that is it's very hard on me as well. Just wanting to see them have the same type of experience I had. So hopefully that gets better. But now I feel like I'm dealing a lot better with it. Nowadays, I wake up every day and I just want to make the most out of every day. This is the first time I really feel where people around the world have just paused, have just stopped.
Yeah.
Everybody's inside. Stay in place orders are around the country. This is a time where everybody's literally in pause. So it's like I just think about what I'm going to do to make the most out of it. How can I make myself better when this is all over? You know what I mean? And how can I find ways to make my community and the school community better just from the comfort of my own home?
So that sounds super good. And one of the reasons that I'm glad that I get to talk to both of you is that we know each other pretty well. So all that sounds great and wonderful. And that's the Micah J. Holmes that I know. But, how are you? I mean, I hear all that other stuff, but I want to know how you are because, and I think one of the things that quite honestly keeps me together when all kinds of crazy stuff happens is being able to teach at Morehouse College. So one of the things I know is that you texted me maybe, the day or two after things went down, you were like, "Hey, Doc, how you doing?" And I was like, "Oh man, I didn't even reach out to Mike and ask him how he's doing yet." And the same thing with you, Grant. I mean, you didn't ask how I was doing. You were like, "This is the worst." But so so we'll get to you in a second. But Micah, tell me how you're doing. I mean, because the thing is, I know this, but you've not shared it. You're not even at home now. You're away from home, and you're somewhat isolated and all that kind of stuff. How are you doing? How are you dealing with this stuff?
It's definitely tough. You got a lot of things that you really got to think about now. Like you see a lot of industry shutting down. Like what I work in is in sports, so I decided to do a program after I graduated with the NFL for 2 years in their junior rotational program. So it's like, all right, I just seen the NBA shut down. All right, what does that do for me? You know what I mean? I'm supposed to start in July, and you don't know when this is truly projected to end. So you think about your future like that. That puts a lot on you. And being in New York City, where a lot of these cases are happening, you know what I mean? I think over 700 people just died yesterday.
Yeah, man.
From COVID in New York City alone. You know what I mean? That worries you a lot. So it's just having that in the back of your mind. It's also like the experiences of senior you don't get to have. Like that's also like that weighs down on you as well. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had a lot left in playing. Like Grant can tell you about it himself. We had a lot of playing just between us two together, you know? So like that's just a big thing. And then being away from my family is getting harder like as time goes on. So I'm in Atlanta, all my family is back home in Cleveland, Ohio. I try to check in with them even more. And that's something I actually have improved upon since I've been down here. Like, you know, you're in college, you're doing a lot of things, you're in class, like you're doing extracurriculars. Sometimes you forget to call home or you don't check in as much. And now with things like this, you're appreciating your family a lot more.
So practically, why aren't you at home? I mean, you know, like what why are you still here?
I really think I'm in an apartment. I paid for an apartment off campus, so I got to have my lease. But two, like just knowing back home, like I got a lot of older family. I wouldn't like just to come home and like actually be a carrier and not even know. Do that to them. You know what I mean? So like,
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I just wanted to say that I had that in the back of my head when I decided to stay down.
And I think, you know, I'm asking you and pushing you around a little bit around that because I think that's so important because you're making, you know, you are an adult and you're making adult decisions. You're like, okay, well, you know, the world is paused, but it hasn't ended. So I still got to ride my lease out. I want to make sure that if this thing is going down, that I'm not, you know, carrying it back to my family at home and things like that. And I think that is demonstrative of being responsible, not only to yourself and to your community, but that demonstrates as leadership in a significant way. So, I mean, that's why I'm kind of pushing you a little bit there.
Yeah.
All right, Grant. So what's up with you, man? How are you doing?
Big Grant on the call.
So and tell us who you are. Tell us who you are too, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Grant Bennett. I'm a graduating senior psychology major from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Came to Morehouse on a very funny story that Dr. Rice loves for me to tell. I ended up meeting J. Cole at a really young age. And he mentions this light-skinned cat that works in the psych department.
I really don't know why you always say that.
That's how I remember it.
But there were such clear issues of colorism there. But go ahead.
He told me, Doc. That's what he told me.
All right, go ahead.
You got to teach his class.
We'll deal with the rest of that offline. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Please proceed.
I got you, Doc. But essentially, I met J. Cole at a really young age, and he had mentioned Morehouse College. And at the time, I had never thought about going to Morehouse. I was thinking of really going to North Carolina A&T. That's like our home HBCU where I'm from. So ended up going down to Mid Students Weekend, and I was actually in Dr. Rice's like master class for like freshmen. And the first person I saw on like the PowerPoint was J. Cole and him having a conversation. And I kind of just felt like that was destiny. At that same time, I went out and talked to the baseball coach. It got me a baseball scholarship. So I came down on a baseball and an academic scholarship. My Morehouse experience has been crazy. Like I've gotten a chance to do so many things. Over the summers, I've had an opportunity to do research or intern at University of Georgia, Vanderbilt University, Harvard Business School. And my last internship was at Google, where I got a full-time offer. I'll actually be heading back out to the Silicon Valley to work for Google in their human resource rotational program for 2 years. But yeah, Morehouse has been amazing for me, and it was definitely crazy, you know, how everything ended so abruptly in terms of like my physical time at Morehouse. Kind of like Dr. Rice said, I hit Dr. Rice up on the side, like, man, this is crazy for someone that's very like campus oriented, for someone that loves being around people. You know, Mike is pretty much the same way. It was very hard for me to adjust just off the strength that I'm just so used to being around everybody. And that being so heavy in terms of the Morehouse experience, right? So it was super tough for me. And to dive in more, I ended up coming home to Fayetteville. So I'm in Fayetteville now. I'm living with my parents again. A lot like Micah, I have my own apartment back in Atlanta, but me and my roommate both, you know, decided to go home. The reason I felt comfortable coming home was because I never left Atlanta during spring break. I was literally with the baseball team, getting ready for a game that we thought we were going to play that Saturday. We were actually scheduled to play at the Brave Stadium, SunTrust Park, the following weekend. So all of that kind of got shut down. So I felt cool coming home just off the strength that I knew I wasn't really like traveling and stuff for spring break. I was pretty much at the house already. So in terms of how I'm doing a lot better than I was when I first hit you, Doc, a few weeks back. I've kind of gotten into a little routine. Still get an opportunity to kind of work with students virtually, and I know we'll talk about that later in terms of the grant that I got with the Andrew Young Center. But just in terms of like my whole mental health, I'm doing a lot better than I was.
Okay. And what do you attribute that to?
I have only come home maybe 3 times since I've been in college. Yeah. So I've always wanted that opportunity to be able to be home for an extended period of time outside of like an actual break and just be around my family. So being around them has made the difference because, you know, it's something I've always wanted, you know?
Yeah. So you said that you've kind of gotten into a routine. I think that so often becomes super important. What does that routine look like? Not that you have to draw out every day for us, but in general, what does a day look like? Does it look like schoolwork, exercise, and driving around? I mean, what does it look like?
Yeah, so for me, I'm trying to be up by at least like 10:30, 10 o'clock in that range. So I don't want to like sleep through the whole day. First thing I try to do is get outside. The weather out in Fayetteville has been great, so I can go outside, I can run. We got a couple of free weights at the house, do some body weight workouts. So just something in the morning to get me going. Usually in the middle of the day, I usually knock out work. So if I have something for school or if I have something I'm working on in terms of the grant, or just any nonprofit work that I want to knock out, I usually do that during the day. Once I get my work done, it'll probably be around like 4 o'clock. I just hang out with my family, like bug my little brother, bug my little sister, have conversations with my parents because they're not working right now either. But just being around them like kind of takes up the rest of the day, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's been super helpful. I've ended up starting to play video games, and like all my friends know, like I don't play video games. I've never had like a PlayStation or anything like that. So that's been new. Hopping on 2K and stuff with my little brother. Started watching some really good TV, you know, some good Netflix. Like I've enjoyed being able to binge watch stuff and stuff. So that's kind of like where my day and what my day looks like.
What are you watching on Netflix?
Oh, so on Netflix, nothing really on Netflix. I've really turned into Disney Plus because they got like the Proud Family and like all the stuff I came up on, and plus Marvel. Like they have all the Marvel movies, so I've been watching those. I've been really on Hulu though. Hulu's been hitting.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. I know I'm trying to watch on Apple TV, The Banker. Have you guys heard about that with Sam Jackson and Mackie? It's really, I mean, it looks really interesting. I've not heard it yet. I've heard great things about it. And of course, since, you know, Brother Jackson is in it, along with every other movie ever, you know, I was trying to look into it, but it's exactly about these two brothers who, as I understand it, who buy out some banks and are using banking to be able to reinvest into their community and things like that. So I'm digging that. I mean, I've also watched Tiger King, so I don't want to sound, you know, super erudite or anything like that. So, but tell me this: what about schoolwork? And I'll jump to you, Micah, and ask you about how your routine looks in terms of negotiating schoolwork, because we know that really at the at the turn of a dime, we went from seeing each other in classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday if you're business, to we're online now. So Michael, what's that look like for you? How do you design your day and make that work?
All right, so how do I design my day? Wake up. I try to do some type of home workout when I wake up. But when I getting ready for class, first off, adjusting to online classes is extremely different. It's so much different. You have to be so much more disciplined. You got to actually know, okay, I got to get this Zoom link to be in class. All right. After that, I got to figure out what my assignments are, discussion boards, actual assignments, whatever they may be. And it gets a lot to track at times. You got to find different links for different classes. You know what I mean? And it's not face-to-face classroom learning. You can easily get distracted. You're in the comfort of your own home, looking at a laptop. You can pull up a tab and look at, you know what I'm saying, throwback Kobe highlight or something like that.
Right
next to your teacher. It's like that's a lot of discipline you got to put into yourself. So when I get into the online classes, a lot of my teachers have done a very great job to keep us engaged, like Dr. Malik. And, you know what I mean? So they try to find ways to keep us engaged, make sure we're all talking, all our faces on the camera, things like that to keep us engaged. But it's still an adjustment. Honestly, I would say that myself. It's not going to be something we pick up overnight and be like, okay, this is a grand prize right here. We can do this long term. It's a lot of things that need to be worked out, especially when you feel like, okay, I'm developing relationships with my teachers over the semester, getting really cool, and then bam, I got to look at you over a screen.
Yeah,
that's hard at times.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I was saying, but I've been doing pretty well with keeping up with my work and whatnot.
So do you think that is there I mean, you talk about not obviously, but you talk about the need for discipline. Have you been able to call on that in terms of the discipline? Has it gotten a little bit better? You know, week 1, week 2 is a little better, or getting a grip of assignments and kind of what the outcomes of the classes are? Is that a little bit more tangible and not as much everything thrown on the wall at once? And I'm not talking about just the classes. I mean, obviously I'm a college professor, so I'm on our side, but this idea of the classes are thrown up there, this idea of you being isolated and by yourself, or in this case of Grant with family and just having to juggle all that stuff, has the passage of time helped you to kind of focus more or tap into that discipline that you had in school, different although it may be? Have you been able to do that more easily?
Definitely over time. But originally, it just feels like everything is just being thrown at you. You got a lot of assignments being thrown at you, revised syllabi, you know what I mean? All that's being thrown at you, you feel like you're starting all over again, but everything is still piling up at the same time. So it's like, okay, once you get everything organized, like I have the assignment in this class, I got a class on this day, you know what I mean? I got to actually watch a presentation and get it down, take the notes, so I have a quiz somehow. You know what I mean? When you get that all aligned, I feel like it's much easier. But when you go from a in classroom learning situation to online, is night and day. You know what I mean? So it just takes a little bit of time. Now I'm dealing with it a lot better. My teachers are doing better as we have more and more classes. And actually organizing the class and knowing how we're going to learn and operate, whether that be a Zoom call through Blackboard, Ultra Collab. But it's been getting better. It's been getting better. At first it was bad, but it's better.
So how do you all, and maybe I'll pivot to you, Grant, on this and then let you hand off if you'd like. But I know that you all are really, really in the fabric of the community. It's not like, I don't know your extent of with respect to SGA, but I just know that you're, as the kids might say, you're in the streets of Morehouse, right? You're on Brown Street, right? I know that you all are both fraternity brothers and things like that. But in addition to that, I know that you have all kinds of things that you do with, as you were saying, Micah, with undergraduate, well, your fellow undergraduate students who might be freshmen, sophomores, and things like that. Is there any advice or anything that you've been able to share with them in terms of persevering through this time, or any tips or guidance you might have given them, or what's up with that?
Bring me first.
Yeah, for sure. The first thing that I think me and Micah and definitely a good group of seniors have definitely tried to do was just tap in with those kids, first and foremost. So
Okay.
the same way that like you reached out to me, just to make sure and like kind of see how they're feeling, right? And then based on like the individual kid or based off like the certain situation, we've been able to give really good advice to whomever. This has been a crazy year for those kids. Like I couldn't imagine coming to Morehouse the way they did, with just the circumstances surrounding like their very first week at school all the way to this situation.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I'm hearing from them, Doc, is they just, when they come back, they just want something different. Like they don't want like this stigma to last all 4 years, right?
I got you.
And I think that the biggest thing we could tell them is that there's a lot, like that it only gets better in terms of the experience at Morehouse. Like the more you invest, the more time you spend on the yard, like the greater that experience is gonna get. And I think the big thing for me talking to a lot of them has been just trying to understand like their individual lane, their individual path, and not trying to look to the left or to the right of what other guys are doing, because it can be very discouraging. You know, a lot of people, especially in the AUC, they're always up to something, right?
Yeah.
And if when you begin to compare yourself to, you know, well, so-and-so starting their own business or so-and-so just got a 4.0, and you start trying to compare yourself, you get sometimes either distracted or even discouraged. So my major thing has just been telling them, you know, just use this time to think about what you really want and what you can get out of Morehouse, and about like in and out of that experience. Because ultimately, like your path is going to be your path and nobody else can judge that. And you guys have an ample amount of time to really think about what that path can be for you.
Yeah. Okay. I got it. Thank you. Micah, that's ditto for you?
Yeah, he basically got everything, you know what I mean?
So tell me this, and we're almost done here. But I know that you had mentioned some social impact work, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but I know that you're excited about this project. Can you tell us about the work you're doing through the Andrew Young Center?
Yeah, definitely. So before I left school, we were getting ready to do, let me describe the grant. So originally, the Andrew Young Center ended up announcing Global Leadership, Social Justice, and Leadership Innovation Awards. And essentially those awards went out to students who were looking at doing specific program around like social impact and social justice. And my project for emerging leaders was accepted. And essentially, it was going to be a continuation of a program I started my junior year, where we got different companies and brands involved to basically just do leadership development around first-year students. And I guess the capstone project would have been some community service around impact using these freshmen and the skills that they learned through the program. Because I couldn't connect with those kids, originally my grant was going to get cut because I can't connect with the kids the way we wanted to. But through the help of Dr. Adams, who's so amazing, and Dr. Knight, they were able to kind of reallocate those funds to this nonprofit that I started back here in Fayetteville. So with the help of my school district, we were able to bring together about 30 young Black men, 9th through 12th grade from across the county. Me and another student, Drayshawn Spearman, we're basically going to do leadership development through like a virtual source. So maybe like Zoom or maybe a Google Hangout, but we're basically going to do like a leadership development session for these kids during this time, and try to connect them with some brands. So I know we definitely have Google on board. We're looking at getting Dennis Smith Jr., who's a point guard for the Knicks, to tap in with these kids as well through the virtual engagement. So the project for them is actually going to be doing different activities from your curriculum, Doc, through the social impact curriculum. So having that great, super like dope visuals that we can share to kind of show what we've learned through impact. But I'm super excited about that because I've always wanted to get Fayetteville involved with Morehouse. And this is kind of like the first step in just, you know, getting and merging that connection. So I'm super excited about that.
That's great, man. So, Micah, we can't let him drone on about that without talking about the nonprofit that you established when you were, what, in the 6th grade or something like that? Can you talk to us about that?
All right, so upon graduation in high school, me and a couple of my friends from back home community in Cleveland, Ohio, we wanted to come together and address a problem we had in our community. That problem being that the young generation in Cleveland, Ohio, didn't really have any younger people to look up to, any younger role models. You know what I mean? And they didn't have a true way to get the skills they needed free of charge. You know what I mean? Youth football camps can go over the cost over the $200 to $500. for 1 to 3 days. You know what I mean? That's a huge problem. So we came together and created an overtime sports group. So what we do, our first year, we created a free youth football camp in the summertime. We did it in June, and we had over about 60 kids come out. Had a couple of guidance from NFL players, Jerome Baker, Justin Lane. We had a lot of college athletes out there from that Cleveland, Ohio community that wanted to come back and invest into these kids. And after that, it became an annual thing. Last year, we actually expanded to an entire weekend over a 3-day deal free of charge. We got a chance to get sponsorships from Body Armor, things like that, just to help them invest into these kids as well. Donated games to them, game systems, and even cleats and gloves to them as well. So this is addressing that problem of connecting love for sports between our group with the community as well that look up to us. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing we had going. We actually have our 4th camp coming up this summer. We just had to push it back. It was in June, so we're trying to look at the news and see if we can actually get it off for these kids because it means a lot to them.
Yeah.
Make it happen by any means. So that's what I do back home.
That's great, man. That's good stuff. So I don't really have anything else. That was really good. That was a good check-in and barometer. I think for both of you and you all being able to share that, I think is significant. Is there anything else you all want to talk about, ask, or anything like that before we hop off? Anything you want to say?
Doc, I was going to ask you something for sure.
Oh, okay.
Definitely wanted to see like what's the atmosphere been like for you all as instructors and like as an administrator at the college? Like, what has it been like? Because obviously, like from a student standpoint, it's like, all right, yeah, we got to go. But I know y'all are still like very much involved in like what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's tough because the thing that we're concerned about the most is you all, right? So the idea is, how is it that we make sure that we are responsive to the pandemic in a way that places your health as central? That's why I think the school did a great job in being able to say, okay, look, we're shutting it down and we're going to figure it out. So I think the first thing was being able to tell you all while you were on spring break, along with the other folks in the AUC leadership, that this spring break is getting ready to get extended a couple of days. It was another week, and then it was cut to that Wednesday, and you guys got to scram, right? Because the idea was to get you to a safe place that was not going to allow for this virus to grow and to incubate. So there was that. And then it's the brass tacks of how is it that we continue to service these students? Because quite honestly, the work that we do as educators at Morehouse College is more than just educating. We are trying to put out in real time leaders who are able to deal with the times as we see them right now. You know what I'm saying? And so, it becomes tough from that perspective and thinking about, okay, how do we do this? But then it becomes so much easier because you're mission driven. You know what I'm saying? And so the idea is, all right, whatever hurdles we might have to jump over, whatever extra time we might have to put in terms of refiguring syllabi or calling and checking in on our students and things like that, it really is something that is, you all have heard me say this before, and I do believe it, the folks who are at Morehouse College, it really is a ministry of sorts. So it's tough on one hand, but it also is an opportunity for us to show and prove, right? What is it that we're really about? We're really about, collaborating with you all in growing you to be the leaders that we need in this day and time. So practically, it's a lot to juggle because, of course, we have personal lives as well, but it's so beautiful because oftentimes our personal lives are interwoven into the people that we are servants for, and that's you all. So so that's kind of where it is for us, for me as an extension of the Morehouse College community, at least.
Makes sense.
Micah, you trying to put me on the spot too? What's going on?
I just want to know how you handling the day to day. Like, what is your day to day looking like? You know what I mean? When you first find out, what was your thoughts? You know what I mean? I want to get in the mindset of you as well over these past couple of weeks.
I guess, the first thing that you think about, I have small kids. So I have 2 sons, one who is 12 and one who's 4. So they are, at the forefront of my mind in terms of how is it that I'm going to make sure that they're tight and that they're not super scared, right? Because this thing is, it's something that's brand new for everybody. You're checking in with the news and you want to make sure that you're responsible and responsive to the news and you're a responsible citizen, but you also don't want to become overwhelmed and hopeless, right? So there's negotiating that. My wife and I, we make a great team in terms of going back and forth and checking in with one another, making sure that we're cool. And so what the everyday looks like for me, since, there was some rumors of things shutting down and things would have to be put online and we need to stay safe at home, I made sure that I was exercising every day because, I don't drink. I never have. I don't do drugs. I never have. And, the thing that I needed was to be able to do something that allowed me to release my anxiety. And so for me, it was riding my bike or boxing. I have a row machine at the house, so I do that. And so it was it was doing those things so I could get enough adrenaline up so that I could look outside while I'm on the bike or whatever and see how beautiful it is. It's been beautiful here. So the irony of it all is that if you're able to, wear your mask and be safe and at least walk outside in your neighborhood and come home, you can really experience the beauty of nature and all that kind of stuff while still taking care of yourself. So, there were those things. And then it was, again, going back to what Grant was asking in terms of how this, overlapped with my professional responsibilities. It really was checking in with y'all, making phone calls to folks who were in my class, checking in on them, people, it runs the gamut because it's real life. So there's some folks who are, super cool and they're all the way good, but there's some folks who are, in New York and are dealing with older parents or grandparents, or they're in LA and they're dealing with that, or, I'm talking to folks who are in Louisiana and they're dealing with stuff down there. So it's real life, man. So it can get overwhelming, but the thing that remains so important to me, and I think to others who are going to see this conversation, is you all are out there. And it's not you all are out there in this kind of rhetorical or pretend sense. You all are staying safe at home, right? But you're still doing the work, and that's the extension of what it is that we want for the institution that is Morehouse College to be able to do. So I'm so proud of you. I care about you both deeply. You know that. I love you. And just keep on doing the work. And all this other stuff, again, it sounds like it's just words, but all this stuff is going to turn. And the way that it turns, we want to make sure, again, that you all are at the forefront and are able to make changes that allow for this world to be better, Boom, drop the mic. That's it. All right, so look, that's all for the conversation. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hang up here, and I thank you all for being a part of the Crowd Forum conversation. I'm gonna hang up on the Zoom call, and I'm gonna call you guys offline and check in with you. Okay?
That's a bet, Doc.
Okay. All right, you all take care. Be safe.
Yes, sir.
All right, peace.
Dear old Morehouse, dear old Morehouse, we have pledged our